Hi. Um, so we're still looking into what does science say about astrology, channeling, and that sort of thing. And so far, we just looked mostly at quantum physics, and we also asked the question, what is science in the first place, and decided that science is not just one thing, right? The science itself has changed quite a lot. So instead of physics, today let's move on to psychology because that gives us a whole different perspective, but a very interesting perspective too. And I'm not a psychologist, so I'm sure that I will make some mistakes. But I want to talk about Jungian psychology, and I'm going to base it on a book called The Feminine in Jungian Psychology and in Christian Theology by Anne Belford Ulanov. This is a really good book. So I strongly recommend it if anybody's interested. Anyway, so the picture that it gives us of the human is that we have a consciousness, but the consciousness is made up of a personal unconscious plus a conscious awareness. So the part of us that relates to the world really comes from our conscious awareness, but it's also influenced by whatever is going on in our unconscious, our personal unconscious. So the ego is actually part of our conscious awareness. But in the unconscious, the personal unconscious, we have these sort of complexes which are put into our unconscious through our actual life experience. So, for instance, suppose we have a father who's very domineering and angry, then that would put into our unconscious this picture of a father who is domineering and angry. So in our future, then when we come across somebody who's in the position of say a father or maybe some kind of a boss or something, we tend to project this onto them. So this is fairly standard psychology, right? This also came from Freud. There's a lot of stuff going on inside us that we don't even know about, that we're not aware of. And so Freud sort of felt like as long as we sort of bring it into our conscious awareness, then gradually we can deal with it. Okay, but now Jung then took it further. So, as well as the personal unconscious, then Jung says that there is a collective unconscious and that we all draw on this collective unconscious. It underpins all of us. So, in the collective unconscious, there are archetypes. And these archetypes are not objects, but they are sort of the image or the concept, or maybe something that came from like collective behavior, or that created collective behavior over a very, very long period of time, or maybe even something primordial that was sort of determining, not determining behavior, but sort of offering itself as a way to look at life and a pattern that we could follow. So, universal patterns like the Great Mother or the Great Father, right, or the hero going on the hero's journey. And these are things that we all relate to in our lives. But um, because of our life experience and because of our personal unconscious, then that gets involved also. So we are not, very few of us are just sort of living, purely according to the archetypes within the universal collective unconscious, but we are also affected by the whatever has happened to us or whatever. It's more like what conclusions that we have drawn, usually totally unconsciously. I mean, we don't really think, you know, when we're growing up, oh, mothers are terrible beings who will punish you or whatever. We don't think like that. because it's not in our conscious awareness, but actually we are unconsciously thinking like that, and that affects our whole lives and all of our relationships. So the point, though, here is that uh, there exists in this theory, which is actually fairly accepted these days. Lots of people believe in the archetypes. I mean, we talk about our lives in terms of archetypes. So the point is that underlying everything is this collective unconscious. Now, I didn't know for sure if Jung meant that referred to animals also. So I asked AI, and AI said, yes, it does. It's not explicitly stated, but it is a part of it's sort of automatically implied by his theories. So that means anything, I guess I didn't even ask about plants, but basically living systems are affected, are almost uh, um, exist because of this universal collective unconscious. So the way that this affects our ideas now about astrology and so on is that we can start to think that there is some universal um, consciousness field. I'm going to put it in terms of a field. Lots of people do now, actually. There is this sort of field of consciousness that um, that we live within. And actually, we can extend that a little bit, actually a lot, but we could say that the whole universe exists within this field of consciousness. Because otherwise, we have to assume that a collective unconscious somehow emerged as a result of evolution from inert machine-like processes of matter. And we've already pretty much said that that's not the case, right? That um, even like we found from physics that the human consciousness actually affects matter in some way. And we weren't very precise about that. But it's suddenly, we're sort of gathering evidence from many fields now to show that there is some sort of underpinning consciousness in everything. So even Stephen Hawking, like the physicist in a wheelchair who died a few years ago, he wrote a book called The Dreams That Stuff Is Made Of. So he himself says, stuff is not little pieces of stuff, pieces of matter, but it's made of dreams. It's made of something intangible. So we are now finding evidence also from psychology that something intangible, something more like mind and consciousness, is underlying everything. So Jungian psychology um, doesn't really bring in like matter, but actually physics does, right? Because like the electron is it's a particle, but it exists with as an electron field. Okay, so fields are sort of very important now, and I'll probably have to spend some time talking about fields. Um, but now we have both from physics and from psychology this idea of consciousness underlying um, well, actually, I'm going to say everything. And so that means that's going to take me into my next video, which will be about Alfred North Whitehead's process philosophy. And that's very specifically deals with consciousness. Okay, thank you.